Hi, Spoonies! Welcome to the Spoonie Way, the Spoonie version of The Artist Way by Julia Cameron. This is week 2, actually chapter 2, recovering a sense of identity. If you have the spoons for it, if you could watch the ads, if there are any, that helps me earn a tiny bit of income because I am too sick to work. But if not, I totally understand. We have decided to start doing 2 weeks per chapter because that gives us a lot more time and helping with spooniness, fatigue, and all those things to be able to really take in the chapter and try to do the tasks and all that. Descriptions, links, all that in the description. Okay, chapter 1 was, I'm going to check in about chapter 1 and then go over chapter 2. Chapter 1, it was really good. I feel like I got a lot more out of week 2 than I did out of week 1. So I was glad that we expanded it. The most important thing to me, and I can't even remember that much about it, to be honest, but it was more like it gave me a real sense of kind of wonder and abundance and giving myself permission to do these creative things. It was more about the experience rather than checking off the list of like, oh, did I do that? Did I do that? So I enjoyed it a lot more because of that. One of the common questions that came up during the time was, why do I avoid self-care? And during my daily pages, I found an answer for myself, and it was really powerful, actually. And I realized that, like, instead of beating myself up for not doing self-care, like recognizing that I may have a really good reason I'm not doing self-care. It might be an old reason and no longer serves me, but it was a good reason. And so, when I was growing up, the people around me, like, really squishing me down if I was really expansive or took up a lot of space or that sort of thing. So how do I give myself permission to that, to do that, to be expansive and heal myself now? I only did 5 daily pages over the 2 weeks, but they were a really great experience. I'm sure the content wasn't, but the experience of it was really great, and I felt like it really moved something inside of me somehow. It's hard to explain, but it felt good. Even though I hated them beforehand, by the time I finished them, I'd be like, oh, that was great. One of the tasks I did was time travel. I really thought I couldn't do this because of the brain fog. My memory's terrible. I really didn't want to. But I was really surprised when I sat down to do it what actually came out. I remembered this incident around dancing in gym class. We had these kind of like line dancing, and I used to love to dance. I loved that class, and I used to love ballet and all this. And then somebody told me, it was around the 3rd grade, that the popular girls were making fun of me behind my back in the class, and the whole class knew, and I felt humiliated, horribly humiliated, and I really shut down my love of dancing, and I pretty much stopped. I'd completely forgotten that, and it was amazing to remember that. And then I drew, not the monster of this experience, but I drew myself, like, dancing and freely and joyfully, like who I would have been without the monster. And this was really exciting because I also feel like I avoid drawing because I feel like I'm really bad at it. And so that also felt very freeing to allow myself to do that. So it ended up being an amazing task. And it only took probably 10 minutes, maybe. Another task was imaginary lives. I found that was a really great source of artist date. One of my imaginary lives was a national park ranger, and obviously way too sick to go out, but I ended up watching a documentary about park rangers, and it was really enjoyable. And I found that I did more artist dates than writing, which is unusual for how I think of myself, but I found that it was really good for me because it was more about getting into the experience of it, and it also, I get a lot of hand pain. So it helped with that kind of spoonie aspect as well. Okay, so chapter 2, recovering a sense of identity. I felt like the chapter used a lot of really ableist language that I think stigmatizes mental illness. So I had to really work on reframing it for myself. And during that process, I felt like I was able to take it a lot deeper than what was on the page, in a way that was more authentic and more accurate. So instead of saying like, oh, the crazy makers, it was like, you know, people that I pour a lot of time and emotion into in relationships in ways that I get very little back or that don't really feed me. So anyway, as she was saying in the chapter, as we move into our creativity and really prioritizing ourselves, a lot of stuff comes up. We get really scared. We get really uncertain. We feel awkward. It's difficult and unsure and like, I don't know. But like for me, it was like really recognizing that it takes practice. You know, it takes practice. Any skill takes practice. And while we're practicing, we might seem erratic, but that's just the process of learning the skill. I'm learning. I'm at the T-ball stage, not the major leagues. You know, I've got the balls being held up for me. You know, it's not coming at me 90 miles an hour. So being patient with myself and compassionate with that process. She also brought up that we are often attacked from the inside, like with self-doubt, but we also get it from the outside, and those people that are those emotional black holes, right? So they're really needy. They get upset when you draw boundaries, that sort of thing. But like I realize that it's not really about them and not about the outside, but it's about me on the inside. To what degree am I willing to give away my power in a way that doesn't feed me? So of course, life is about compromise. You know, it's not just about me, me, me. Of course not. But like in 24 hours, can I carve out 30 minutes for myself? I mean, that's such a tiny percentage of my time. And this includes not just the people in my environment, but my illness and my body. Because my illness takes up so much of my brain, my energy. And of course, it's necessary. It's draining, but it's necessary. But can I still carve out some space? Can I still carve out some time? Can I make the choices, you know, to care for myself emotionally in the way that I would a friend or partner? So I may not be able to physically escape the draining things, whether that's my body or certain relationships or whatever, but I can really also work on the amount of space that they take up in my mind. How much do I dwell on it? Do I think about it? All of that. I'm not saying it's easy. It's not. But am I willing to, you know, learn T-ball first as I'm learning this skill? Am I willing to work on it to be awkward, to get to where I want to be with this thing? It's about deliberation and intention. And Julia really talks about like attention, and that managing emotional pain or bringing forth creativity or living a full life, like all these things are about attention in the moment. I would say it's about mindfulness, being really present, appreciating the little things. There's a book I love that's called The Sound of a Wild Snail Eating, and it is about this woman who was completely bedbound, so sick she couldn't watch TV or read or anything. And someone gave her a snail in a terrarium, and just watching this snail gave her a sense of connection to another being, connection to the wider world, and a sense of wonder and appreciation. And I feel like that's what I get a lot from my own Buddhist practice. Every day I chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo as really my basis to try to draw on those things. Optimism, possibility, connection to the larger universe, a sense of eternal self, you know, all those things. And that it's that attention and intention helps us find joy in the little things, which when we're moving from this place, even though we're incredibly limited physically, gives us a sense of freedom and connection, which ultimately feeds our creativity and makes creativity be more like breathing than this painful thing to endure. So anyway, that's what I got out of the week too. So for the tasks for the week, the ones that I'm interested in maybe trying is the affirmative reading, reading the basic principles of the course. I put it on the front of my journal. That is also, a picture of those is also in the blog post for chapter 1. And then being attuned to any shifts in attitude towards what she says. Another one is, it says, where does your time go? But the part I'm most interested in is the safety map. So really having a map, drawing circles and figuring out, what kind of function do people have in my life? Are they supportive? Are they destructive? Are they whatever? But then also maybe habits or things, and trying to map it out for how it will best serve me. I think not just with creativity, but with spooniness, because people that don't believe my illness are obviously very, very draining. And then how can I maybe not sever ties with them, but move them a little bit further out in my spheres of my life. Another one is the imaginary lives. I totally want to do that again. I think it's awesome. Life pie. I am super resistant to this and I don't want to do it at all. Therefore, I think it will yield tremendous benefit for me. You divide a circle into 6 pieces, like a pie. Label each section spirituality, exercise, play, work, friends, and romance, adventure. I think I am going to be incredibly lacking in multiple areas, and it feels really hopeless because as a spoonie, it's like, oh God, like how can I do those things? But I'm hoping that doing the exercise will help me think creatively and in spoonie friendly ways of maybe finding things in those areas to be a little bit more expanded. That's Sesa, my kitty. And then the other one I want to do is 10 tiny changes. I've done that before, and it was really neat, kind of what came out, and might help me find ways of having a more visually creative environment or other things like that. So, okay. I hope this was useful. I hope you had a great chapter 1, and we'll have a great chapter 2. Post on #Spoonieway on Twitter. Share with us your artist dates or your tasks, morning pages, frustrations, inspirations, whatever you're finding. And thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great 2 weeks on this chapter.